Okay, let's see if this works. Just gonna hang out here. Hey, hello again. I'm just gonna hang out for a few, like 2 minutes, and make sure that nothing goes crazy. I think Mehmet, I think you asked a question a couple times, and I was, or somebody else did, and I was focused on why nothing was working. And so if you can ask that question again, that would be great. It's been a minute and I haven't seen any dropping. So far things seem better. Let me get my laptop over here. Oh, cool. Thanks, Shmloni. Um, Radiophonic. Yes. Um, so my, oh, where's my mouse? My wife has mentioned to me a few times that that is, well, our first interactions were probably through email because it was we met on a online dating service called eHarmony. But when we finally spoke, first on the phone and then in person, we met up at Boston Common on the day before it had snowed about 26 inches, and she's reminded me several times since then that the voice had a big impact. So relaxing. Yes, I believe that's one word she uses for that. Yeah. So, can we build an artificial intelligence that's able to observe finance feature trading lists, pairs, and if it sees an opportunity, we'll execute our strategy accordingly? I don't know. I don't know. You know, part of part of that is I don't know. I don't know. I was gonna come up with an answer, and then I was like, well, actually, I don't know. Um, I had thought that identifying patterns was something it would be able to do, and every time I've um tried to deal with it, it or tried to create an example around it, it just didn't. It couldn't do anything. But basically, I think you're looking for anomaly detection, and there's all sorts of all sorts of open source projects about oh, okay, great. So there's ones that are using AI. I have not looked into that at all. I mean, it's somewhat similar to system monitoring and looking for anomalies in metrics. A lot of this kind of quite a bit of overlap there, and I had worked at a company that did that called Datadog, and but I wasn't ever really involved in what they did in that side of the business. Yeah, yeah. So the PDF summaries, one of the problems there. I mean, yeah, you definitely want to break up the document into smaller pieces that the model can understand and summarize those, and then summarize the summaries. One of the problems there is you still need to get the text out of the document, and that's often hard, especially if it's a simple PDF where everything's in a single column and there's no images with text in it, or just No images. Then that's really easy. Pull out the text, no problem. If there's two columns, especially if those two, like if the right column starts a little higher than the left column, at least in the English language where it's left to right, um, then often, depending on how the PDF was created, often the top line of the right column will show up first in the text. If you just do a simple text or PDF to text, the right column, the first line of the right column shows up first, and then maybe it might even take the second line of that right column, and then it'll take the first line of the left column and the third line of the right column, and so it's all jumbled up. And if you have, sometimes people will create that PDF with two columns and maybe even a heading up top, or often you see this in archive or science papers. You'll have like a list of authors, and they're kind of in a almost like a table, except there's no lines to indicate that it's a table, and so that will often, they might have a name, and below each name a description of who they are, and often it will put in the text that comes out, name, description, name. So it's all jumbled up again, and so I haven't I haven't spent much time with it, but using the simple tools out there, PyPDF, PyMoo PDF, um, all these other tools, they just do a great job on simple PDFs. They do a terrible job on anything more complicated. And you really want a combination of the model, or the PDF to text, along with some sort of AI model that is trying to figure it out, as well as a traditional OCR engine. And hopefully, with all those, you somehow combine it to figure out what does the document actually look like. And yeah, it's that's a hard one. Well, hey, I'm really excited about something. I'm excited that I have been on for what was 8 minutes, and I haven't seen one blinky light or YouTube change the excellent connection. It's just been perfect. Uh, it turns out I had. Oh, my wife calling me. Hold on. Hello. Good. Is it any of those documents that we have? You just kind of took the documents I had and originally when we. I feel like there was one set of documents that were like in the file system, or the file system that you have next to your desk. I feel like there were some folders of mine, but can't think of anywhere. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely important to do. Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye. Sorry about that. We were solving switching insurance. In order to get or in order to do that, we had to. They want my naturalization number from when I became a U.S. citizen, back when I was, I don't know, 21, 22 years old, because I was originally born in England. So I had became a citizen when I was, I'd say, when I was 20 something. Okay, so where were we in the list of questions? Um, yeah, automate image generation. Hmm. What would automation of stable diffuse or image generation look like? What would you be doing? Ah, yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I mean that'd be great. I haven't seen anything like that, but yeah, 3% a day, make it for you. You'd be a millionaire in 8 months. Of course, except for when the tool does it wrong and it invests poorly, and then you're out 10% in an hour or 100% in an hour. Um, everybody's I wonder how many of the folks who are using any sort of AI tool, how many of them are just doing it to find a get rich quick method. Hmm. Yeah, what are the cool tools for doing image generation now? With is Stable Diffusion still? I haven't really tried doing anything local. I still pay Midjourney every month for access to them. So I don't know. I have no idea. I've I did a little bit with God. What was it? Noiselith or something. And until they did they stop? I think they stopped providing their application. Um, but I don't know what's out there now. I just haven't dealt with it at all. Okay, what else is there? Get rich quick is a major myth, but we all like to stay in that bubble. Totally. My parents, they've they started working with various investors or money managers or all trying to invest in certain things to kind of grow their savings, and nothing really worked long term. I mean, everything. Maybe it's because my parents never had enough money to really push and make a lot. But the one thing they did make money on was the house, and that's not, and it doesn't work for everyone. My parents bought a house in 1970 for, I'm going to say, like $20,000, and sold it for hundreds of times that amount. You know, 30 years later, 30, yeah, about 30 years later, and so that worked out really well for them, and that was they were lucky that they bought in this area. When they bought it, nobody really wanted to live there, and then 10 years later, it's one of the main neighborhoods that's filmed in a lot of like Miami Vice and all sorts of other movies. uh, there was a movie Scarface and all sorts of other movies in the 80s and 90s, and even today, still today, are filmed on Key Biscayne. And so they just got lucky. They chose a neighborhood that was, again, nobody really wanted to live out there because it was hard to get to. And they got lucky that it became this popular, trendy area, and even a teardown would sell for millions. So that was their one investment that, and nobody advised them to invest in it, and they just went on their gut and bought this house, and it worked out really well for them. Me, on the other hand, I did a apartment in Amsterdam, and I bought it when things were kind of high, but not too high, and it was a little bit after the financial problems here in the U.S. Um, and and then when I tried to sell it, I had to take a pretty big loss on it, and yeah, so that did not work out well for me. I had to call my parents and borrow money from my parents, which really sucks. Um, but yeah, so nobody there's no get rich quick, and the few sure things are not really sure things. Um, love your work. Thank you, Melty. Yeah, I don't know about long context window. I mean, it's um everybody says, oh well, our long context window actually remembers everything, and it seems to not actually be true. But then again, most things that I was just thinking about this morning because I was listening to I think it was This Week in AI, and they were, it must have been an episode from, I think it was earlier this week. So they were talking about the, was it this week, last week? Talking about the OpenAI announcements as well as Google announcements. I think that was this week. Um, and how, oh well, maybe because of these announcements, Google is ahead of OpenAI. But I mean, every time Google's made announcements, you see what they actually make available, and it's nowhere near what they announced. Nowhere near as good as what they announced. But so yes, their announcements make it look amazing. They just always fall short of those announcements. So long context window, will it compromise? I'm sure it will. Uh, and because I mean, never, nothing that Google says is ever as true as what they said, in my opinion. There's no get rich quick, yes, which is true to a certain extent, but there are some who really got lucky who did using AI. Yeah, um, the old guy who sold ebooks. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, but is that a get rich quick, or has he been in that trying to do something for years and years and years and years? Um, you could say going going public, being at a company that GPOs, IPOs, is a get rich quick. I mean, I was at Datadog and it was a unicorn, and it went from pennies to hundreds of dollars, and so get rich quick. Okay, if you don't count the 8 years I worked at Datadog before we went public, when everybody thought it would go under. So I don't know about a lot of these things where people do have made a lot of money. I don't know about get rich quick in most cases. Depends on. It's like any of these. Uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, and I wouldn't say I'm rich. It's. I'm more comfortable than I was, but I can't do stupid. I'm not gonna go buy a crazy expensive boat or anything like that. I need to somewhat stay. Yeah, yeah, but who knows? Yeah. Um, and 8 years. I mean, 8 years to get rich. Yeah, that would be great if you knew. Okay, I'm gonna work now, and in 8 years, I'm gonna be rich. Man, that would be awesome. But I know so many people who have been who have joined companies just like Datadog, um, and did far more than I did, and worked really hard. And their companies had amazing strategies and really amazing products, and so it would make sense that they would do really well. And yet, that company, for some reason, went under because of who knows what. Yeah, if only AI could predict the future. Yep, that would be. Except somebody else would figure that out before I get there, and I'd be screwed. So I hope not. um, that's its whole thing. Yep. Yeah, I mean I guess if you want to make 3% daily, I mean, I guess you can. I was almost going to say, well, get a credit card, then you'll get 3% daily. Of course, you'll be spending, a lot of money in the process, and so you'd be way under. But I just got my Apple card the other day because I financed or whatever my iPad. I just bought a 13-inch iPad, which hopefully I get in a week. Fingers crossed, I get in about a week. That would be amazing. And if you get the Apple card, then you're basically saving $100. I mean, there's no money, no percentage fee on the each payment each month, and you get $100 off the iPad, which is pretty great. Mm. The only place I've experienced like massive inflation was when I went to Russia, and I went to Russia in 1991, I think it was. And when we got there, I can't remember what the exact figure was, but let's say it was 10 rubles to a dollar when we got there. When we left 2 months later, it was something like 400 rubles to a dollar. It was this massive inflation just over the period of 8 weeks or so. That was pretty incredible. Mm. So anybody played around with any of the agent tools? That could be Crew AI, or was that one from Microsoft, AutoGen, or the agent tools in LangChain or Llama Index, or there's a whole. I think there was a pretty recent one from Hugging Face. Yeah, Crew AI. Okay. Any opinions on it? Did it work well for you? Did you actually build anything? Um, yeah, upsetting. Upsetting. Tell me more. Yeah. Don't trust Microsoft. Okay. I So my personal opinion, I don't work at Microsoft, but I did work at Microsoft. And companies change over time, but I was there right in the middle of the monopoly trial, which I thought was, I never really understood the monopoly idea. Um, we were uh, always trying to, yes, we were trying to, when I was at Microsoft, trying to beat out competition, but I did exactly the same thing at OpenText and at Datadog and at other companies. Um, and what we did at Microsoft, because it's a big company, was never quite as drastic or mean as what we did at other companies, much smaller. But it's because it's a larger company that it's seen as predatory, um, and yet it wasn't. But anyway, I was there at that time, and everybody at the company. In fact, probably since then, at OpenText, at Capteris, at Datadog, Olama, and all the other companies I've worked at since then, and other companies I've worked at before then, Oracle and Sun. Um, I never ex- I never worked at a company where so much of the company cared so much about doing the right thing for all of its customers. I've never experienced that anywhere else. So that's my opinion on Microsoft. Of course, I was there. I left there 20 years ago now. So I was there from '99 to 2004. Um, but uh, but yeah, from my experience, it's an amazing company. Interesting thing about the newsroom. Um, yeah, there will always be bad actors, but I Microsoft seems from my experience and from the people know who are still there and have been there for 40. Some people I know that are been there for 40 years. Um, I I don't think I think it has fewer bad actors than many other companies. You don't get to that stage without pushing a lot of that kind of person out. And so if you do, if you were a bad actor at a company like that, um, there's a good chance you won't survive long. Yeah. So Endo, I had some problems earlier where I kept my stream just kept failing. So I finally was able to figure out what's going on. Grip tape. What's grip tape? I don't know what grip tape is. Finally catching up on grip tape. Grip tape AI. Framework for agents. Hmm. Cool. So ETL type pipelines for LLMs. Interesting. I wonder if that's what would have happened to at Datadog. There was a company first acquisition that Datadog did was God, what was that called? They were doing ETL stuff um, with like turtle or gecko. I don't know, some animal name. What was that? Mortar data. Um, I wonder if they would have if they didn't get acquired. If this is where well, if they didn't get acquired, they'd be out of business because they were failing. Let's see. Two problems with AutoGen. Context window and the instructions. Still don't know how to instruct these models to behave better cooperatively. Yeah. Prayson AI. So what's up with that? Is that like Merv Prayson? Is that yeah? What is that? Oh, combines AutoGen and Crew AI. Hmm. Interesting. Um. Line graph. Okay. Managing agent states is a pain. So there was another one I saw that was doing this with state machine stuff, um, which is interesting. I can't remember who that was. Another kind of agent solution, but based around the idea of state machines. Yeah, no code workflows. So yeah, I that's another area that I haven't really. I've seen mentions of tools, but I haven't played around with many of the tools like Rivet or any of the no code solutions. They're all adding kind of AI pieces to them. Though with a lot of those, they're running some service up in the cloud. Do they have access to your copy of Olama, or if assuming you're doing some sort of local AI, do they have access to your machine? Or do you host? I guess at that point you really have to host it with on some hosting provider somewhere. Um, oh yeah. Um, yeah. So that Prayson AI wraparound Crew AI and AutoGen vector shift. Oh, vector shift. I haven't heard of all sorts of. I love this. I love doing this stream because I hear about all these ideas I never heard of. Vector shift. No code AI automations platform. Oh, maybe I should put my screen on. Let's see. MacBook Pro, bottom right. That did not work. Let's see. I have to press a different button. Item. Super source. Let's make up here. Nope, that's not the button. Okay, how about this one? Okay, that's slightly better, but worse. Um, okay, that didn't work. Huh, what'd I do? Okay, let's go back to looking at me. How do I do this? Okay, I press over here. Oh, that's not it. That's not it. a button. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. It was right here. Ah, there we go. No? How about mix effect? Oh, maybe that wasn't started. There we go. Look at that. Finally. Dark mode on. Yeah. No, there's no dark mode here. Yeah. I didn't. I don't know where my water bottle is. Okay, so this is vector shift, which looks pretty cool. A little video here. Oh, let's yes. Turn on a little bit more audio. I don't know. Hopefully you're hearing something. Yeah, totally not pre-recorded. Okay, so this looks pretty cool. Cool. That looks pretty neat. Hey, you heard it. Cool. Takes me clicking extra buttons to figure out what just went wrong. Yeah, what's the pricing? Pricing. Starter is free. So, one pipeline or workflow, and one chatbot. Otherwise, $20 a month for 5. I don't know what a pipeline or workflow is. Pipeline. Okay. And then don't things like yeah, N8N would be a more generic solution that does AI and lots of other things, which I think is super cool. And they have an IO is a hosted version, or you can host it yourself. It's a easy Docker install. And then, of course, there's like make.com, what used to be Integromat. I think they've got some AI tools in here as well. I feel like they did. I've seen some AI stuff recently. But I think all of these are working with like a ChatGPT. I haven't really, rather than a local partner directory. Does Olama show up here? Nope. AI. So OpenAI doesn't show up here. Interesting. Anyway, so there's all sorts of these. I mean, I guess even does if this and that still, is that still a thing? And do they have some sort of AI stuff going on as well? AI generated LinkedIn posts from your blog posts. Cool. I mean, there's so many of these tools that can be, yeah, if you have a server for N8N, it does, it's great. I mean, I did a simple example using N8N as a kind of as a back end for, what was it, for Slack or for Discord. That would, oh, it was for Slack. That would, you'd be able to go in and do a slash command to create a downtime event, and then that would automatically create new roles for Kubernetes when the team that is working on Olama was originally working on role-based access control for Kubernetes. A new solution for RAG search for your own PC. So you use free text for search. So you want to do RAG based on everything on your machine. I haven't seen that, but I know that Misty. So one of the videos I did a few weeks ago was about Misty, and I believe they just added RAG to that and make it really easy. One specific example was for pointing it at your Obsidian vault, and index all your markdown documents, but you really could point it to anything. But was it, I haven't looked at Misty since they did that upgrade. One of the things I really liked about how Open Web UI, whatever, the what used to be Olama Web UI, I think it's now Open Web UI. One of the nice things there was that you could add documents and then add the documents or assign different tags to each document. So maybe this PDF gets an AI tag and a RAG tag, and this other document gets a electronics tag and a DIY tag, and this other document gets some other bunch of tags, and then I can do a RAG search based on, okay, I want to ask about transformers and apply the electronics tag, which gives me a very different answer because transformers are thing in electronics. Or if I change that electronics tag to an AI tag, then I get a very different kind of answer. Oh, code. How do you pronounce code? Open source AI Copilot. Hmm. Oh, interesting. So it's just trying to do RAG, but based on your local stuff, which is great. Yeah, I seem to remember there have been all sorts of tools that did an index of your environment and then would integrate in with Google search. Um, there was one that was pretty recent. God, what was that? It was one that I was actually subscribing to. And then before, I mean, decades ago, there was, Google, I think, even tried to do it, um, and had an integration that would index your local machine and integrate with Google search results. Yeah. Hmm. Internet search and documents and has Emacs and Obsidian integration. Interesting. Um, I've been playing around with something I mentioned in the last video, which was search ng. This project is kind of confusing in getting started with, but I don't know if they do anything where I don't know if there's an option to index your local machine, but basically this gives me, how do I get to this? Localhost 3333. Oops, just that. And now I've got, a search engine. Rabbit AI. Oh, a Rabbit R1. I think I've just pressed enter. Okay, so then it gives me, it's this very simple UI, and it's grabbing stuff from So this particular result shows up on Brave and DuckDuckGo and Quant. I don't know who Quant is, and Google. And I can go into the settings and say only search these different search engines. And then it's cached. Oh, it looks like it cached. If my network goes out. Oh no, this is on Wayback Machine. Okay, but uh, so it's a local search. So it's searching all those things. But I think the way I heard about it was that it will, for each search, it's passing a different, basically making it look like it's coming from a different machine for each one. Um, and so Google can't say, Matt is now searching for Rabbit R1, therefore let me start showing him lots of ads for Rabbit R1. Hmm. I mean, Rabbit is fine. It's annoying that they. I think it would have been better had they just said, "Here's this thing that we're building. We'd love for some input on it," rather than this is going to be the most amazing thing, and then of course it wasn't. And yeah, so Misty not being open source, that was probably of all the. I guess there were two complaints about Misty um, in the comments about that video. There was, first off, it's oh yeah, talking about Rabbit. Yeah, they were an NFT scam, rebranded the company, and then started a new one. Um, but regarding Misty, the two complaints were that it's not open source, which I mean, I can't really. I have a hard time faulting a company for not going open source. I mean, that's a choice that they need to make. And there are plenty of great solutions that are not open source, and there are plenty of great solutions that are open source. And you choose whichever one makes the most sense for you as a developer and whatever your current situation is. So I don't really care about the open source part. Um, but the other thing was that it's embedding Olama with Misty. And so even if you have an existing instance of Olama, it's not going to use it. It's going to use its own copy of Olama. And that was when the Olama team originally designed Olama, when it was me and Michael and Jeff and Patrick and Bruce and a couple other people, we wanted to make sure that Olama could not only be installed by the user, but also it would be potentially easy for a developer to embed Olama into their own product. And so people were upset that they were doing that, even though that was, even though that was like an original goal of Olama, was to ensure that that was possible. Yeah, and regarding Rabbit, I wonder if I have it here. Hold on, let's see. The rabbit. The rabbit reminds me of this guy, the Playdate from. It's also designed by Teenage Engineering. Let's see if I can get that close. So you can't see it because there's no light. But that's the rabbit. Oh, sorry, that's not the rabbit. That's the Playdate, which is a game platform for. Well, it's a game platform. It's made by Panic, which is the company behind. What did they do? They did. what was the uh, Transmit, I think, for iOS and the Mac, a FTP client. They also make Nuon, what's it called? Nova. They make this editor, um, which I own, but I barely ever use. Um, I keep hoping it's going to be better. And but so they made that and this, and Teenage Engineering made the hardware, or they designed the hardware. But this thing, I had such high hopes for it. It was a subscription that for a year, and you'd get 2 games a month, or 4 games, 2 games every 2 weeks, or something like that. Every single game was garbage. None of them were at all interesting or fun. They were just boring. And it was so disappointing. The battery, you charge the battery, it takes ages to charge up. And when it's finally charged up, it lasts for like an hour or two, and then it's dead again. So they were just awful. It's a nice box. That is the one thing going for it. It feels good. It feels substantial. And so I would imagine the Rabbit might be similar. I mean, it has a nice feel. I just hate it. Hate it. Absolutely hate it. It is probably one of the most disappointing purchases I've ever made. Yeah, Atari. Every game. I love Pitfall. Spent many hours on Pitfall on my Atari 2600. Back when did that come out? I must have been like 12 years old when that came out. Amazing. Atari 2600, 5200, which had the cooler joystick, and the kind of sleek console. Oh, it was amazing. Even the Commodore 64 was great. But I mean, there were some garbage games for that. But I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to seeing what I mean. I have to admit, I haven't really played a lot of. I used to play a lot of games when I was at Microsoft, and around that time I had an Xbox, um, and so it was Halo a lot. But I haven't really gotten into games a lot since then. The one game I played recently is one that's not available really yet. One that's been under development for like 3 or 4 years, um, and but it turned out to be really cool. It's called the Bazaar, I think it's called, and it's really just. I think it's like friends and family have access to it occasionally, not often, but there's been 2 rounds, and it's unlike any game I've ever played, and that's probably not. Oh, I don't want that. Let's see. What shall we look at? Let's go back over here, and I don't know what happened there. Let's yeah, load whatever, comma 8, comma 1. I still have that comma 8, comma 1 in my head from having to load on audio tapes. No, definitely no llama. God, I can't imagine how long it would be, how many tokens per second it would get on a Commodore 64. Considering my phone is probably 1,000 times faster than that Commodore 64 was. Yeah, audio gear from I've never tried the OP1 or any of the other things from Teenage Engineering. I guess I have played around with those little things that look like calculators but were pocket pocket rocks. I don't know, those things, which are a lot of fun. But I haven't played with anything else from Teenage Engineering. Pocket operators, yeah. um, in the mixer. Oh, you do you have? Oh, okay, cool. I've never. I mean, they look gorgeous, but I've never played with that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like uh, somebody talked about the how much faster the iPhone, I don't know, 6 was compared to the or the computer on the Apollo spacecraft, and it was like some many orders of magnitude. And so I just assumed, well, Commodore 64 was probably orders of magnitude faster than that, so therefore, but yeah, it's probably many orders of magnitude again. Yes, please ask a question that gets us back to what I actually know about rather than what I can just make up stuff about. Um, Embeddings and vector stores. I see a gap in how to master chunk sizes and overlaps. A gap. What do you mean by a gap in how to master? Well, so first off, with chunk sizings, there's a lot of ways to think about chunks in the first place. There's there's a do you make chunks based on character length or number of words or number of sentences or by paragraphs, or some other breakdown? Because if you just say 500 characters, well, or 500 characters is a common one. That's when you look at the version of Misty, I think that I looked at, as well as anything LLM also went by characters, which was annoying because you don't really you might be splitting up a chunk mid word, which doesn't really help anyone to help understand. So I think sentences are best, and I saw some other another website that was like a company that does a lot of stuff with this, and they found that there's an idea of semantic splitting it up semantically based on ideas. And so if the idea is fully encapsulated within that section, make that a chunk. But this other person, as well as me, both found that it just performed better if they were split up by sentences, and you would say 5 sentences in a chunk or 10 sentences in a chunk, whatever makes sense in your environment. And um, and that just seems to work better more consistently. But then do you want to have overlap? And so again, probably makes sense to do an overlap based on sentences. And so having like 5 sentences with an overlap of 1 from the previous or from the next gap, one of the two, then that works really well. But how do you master? Depends. I mean, it depends on the writing style of the person who wrote the document as well. Do they create well-formed sentences? Do they is English their first language? In which case they are, or not, and are they going to be less? I don't know. It depends on so many things, and there's no perfect answer for everything. Transcripts are often a problem because a lot of transcripts, when I get the transcript back from YouTube, which will automatically transcribe the stupid things I've said, I often see that the periods aren't in there because sometimes, in all of this last ramble of words that I've spat out, where does where does the period go in all of that? It's hard to know because I haven't really. I mean, there's some places where I've stopped and then continue. Well, is that a new? I don't know. It's transcripts are really hard because sometimes the sentences aren't the periods. Sorry, the periods aren't where they should be, and then sometimes you can't just look for periods because there are periods with abbreviations and stuff. Um, yeah, it's just not easy. But I have found that generally looking based on sentences, um, yeah, having something else do the analysis that reads that source document to figure out what is the best place to chunk, maybe. Um, but then there's also maybe a creating there's no reason you can't. A lot of tools like, I mean, ChromaDB is one of the simplest of the vector databases out there, and even Chroma supports the idea of having, one embedding that is actually a subset of another embedding. Like you might have one embedding that is the page, and then another embedding that is each of the paragraphs, and then others that are each of the 5 sentences or so that are subsets of the subset of the subset or whatever. And then each one points to the parent to be able to, that way the embedding can be more specific to the smallest group, but then feed the bigger group to the model. Um, and then your model hopefully gives you a better answer because it's got more stuff to answer from. But then maybe the more stuff starts talking about conflicting ideas, in which case you've now shot yourself in the foot by confusing the model and making it hard for it to understand. Uh, all of that to say, uh, um, multiple speakers makes it crazy. Yep. Bit of hit and miss. Hit and miss, I think, is the key phrase for a lot of this stuff. It's is all kind of hit and miss. It's still early days. Um, yeah, I wish ChatGPT could answer. I wish it could answer a lot of things, but it can't. It's better, getting better. For agents, phi data. Phi data. That's some another. I thought I knew what phi data was, and okay, that's not what I was thinking. Oh no, I did see this one. Yes, they have the pretty, very pretty uh, website. Very pretty website. Those are very sexy charts and graphs. Good results with Nomic and Chroma. Yeah, I think Chroma is great. As I say, it's the simplest. I mean, when you look at a chart of all the different vector databases, so there's this one that's it's called Vector Hub, not vectorhub.com, but Vector Hub by somebody else. And you look at their VDB comparison, vector DB comparison. And so here's all these vector databases. There's a lot in here. And you come to Chroma, and Chroma has like the most things that are just not supported. I guess maybe there's a few others that this Aperture DB seems to have nothing. But like, why are they even here? But Chroma has a lot of, it does a bunch of things, but also there's a lot of things it can't do. And yet even Chroma, I think Chroma is, one of the things I like about Chroma is it's so simple. It's so easy to work with. And it just does enough. Yeah. Docs that have a mix of markup text and images, things get weird quickly. Totally. Llama Index Raptor Pack. What is Raptor Pack? Llama Index Raptor Pack. The hell's that? Raptor Retriever. I, I was kind of hoping it was going to be like a Happy Meal with some dinosaurs like raptors in it, but this is a little bit less exciting. Hmm. So what was that in answer to? Da, 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 da. Huh. Complex PDF columns still causing tears. I see. Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, yeah, the small. I mean, I my so regarding the Moon fans comment, Llama 3 has been pretty cool. Even the smaller ones with Olama. I my favorite models. I keep getting excited every time I see um uh every time I see there's a new model, I get excited, especially if it's a small model. How much the smaller models are progressing is incredible. Oh, I so sorry. Point Avugo Avuga. Anyway, point A. uh, no, you can rewind. I saw a setting in stream settings. I thought, huh, what's that do? And I turned it off. I'm gonna turn it back on now. I don't know if it's gonna be retroactive. So now I was like, why is that on? And I read about it and it said, oh, lets you rewind midstream. I was like, why would anybody care about that? And you cared about it, so I've just turned it back on. Sorry about that. Um okay, where am I now? Postgres and vector storing there instead of Chroma. Yeah, yeah. Postgres, like PG Vector, I think is another one for that's like I don't know if it's. I guess PG Vector is kind of like Chroma in that PG Vector is adding vector support to um, Postgres, just like Chroma is adding vector support to SQLite because it's just SQLite. Not just. It's doing things that I wouldn't be able to figure out too easily on top of SQLite. Yeah. Well, it Chroma is the SQLite for AI because it is SQLite. In fact, if I do I have a Chroma DB anywhere projects code video projects. Um, I feel like I've got a vector databases. Okay, and then ChromaDB. And no, so there's the ChromaDB. It's actually SQLite. So if I open that with, yeah, sure, that one. Oops. I there's all the contents of. Oh, here we go. Um, so those are the full text documents for the I don't know one of the videos I did, and it's all in SQLite. Yeah, there's so many choices with vector databases, and I started to look at other vector databases. The idea was, oh, let me just do a whole bunch of these. This will be like easy way to bang out videos. But it turns out some of them are. The first one I looked at was Milvus, and Milvus has a bazillion options. It's been around. I don't know. It might be the earliest one out there, and it's used. I mean, it seems to be used by a lot of people. It's just got so many features, and it's pretty complicated. Maybe that was the wrong one to start after Chroma because Chroma was just like, oh, there's nothing here. It's so easy to explain. Um, Chunking strategies, llama index, raptor pack. Okay, thank you. So what was raptor rack? Raptor ratch? Or was that just a raptor rack? Raptor pack? Um, is there a GUI for I assume that's a GUI for raptor pack. Is there a GUI for raptor pack? I don't know what that would mean, but yeah, quantize 5.3. That, I mean, those small models are amazing. I mean, is it as good? Depends on what you're doing, um, but it's pretty cool. You reckon they'll build for Snapdragon X Plus for Alum? I don't know. Um, it would make sense to, but I mean, I think there's enough things that they want to achieve, and adding support for another platform. I mean, it's just adding AMD was hard enough, and will the support be there? I mean, the first thing that was built for Llama was Apple Silicon, because it's just building for metal was just easy, and because it was also all of us in the team had Apple, M1, mostly M1 MacBook Pros, but also those M2 Ultra Studio, and I mean we're all on Apple Macs, and so it made sense to start there. Adding Linux was the next most obvious choice, and then adding support for what came next? AMD came next, and then Windows, which had AMD and NVIDIA. But each one of those just adds more complication. So will they add support for Snapdragon X? I don't know. Favorite code editor. Yeah, so I use VS Code for everything that I do. It just works really well. Here I've got Crew AI examples. But that's what I've been using recently. And you'll see that I got these little notifications that pop up every now and then, because I don't know which I thought I'd try recording how much time I'm doing on different things. It seems to mostly just get in the way. But it will automatically start a timer if I go into VS Code. After a few seconds, it'll start timing that, which is kind of fun. But I use VS Code for most things that I'm working with. I occasionally will go into Nova just to remember, oh yeah, Nova. Maybe I should use that more, but I don't. But then, I mean, if I'm on the, a keyboard shortcut got, for some reason, my caps lock stopped responding as a hyperkey, which is Command Option Control Shift, and it seems like Carabiner is messed up again. Anyway, well, hey, this has been fun. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to, I've got a whole bunch of things to look at now, but I really need to work on the next video. Forbidden Senior Light Mode. Is this a reference to my light mode, dark mode debacle? I mentioned once, I mentioned in one of the videos, actually I've mentioned in a couple of videos now, about dark mode, and I hate dark mode. And then, you know, since then people have been like, oh, I won't use it unless it has dark mode, or I won't use it unless it has light mode, or, you know, okay, so provide both. But some people will say, dark mode all the time. And it seems like so I feel like a video needs to come out of this because there's a video by, I want to say, Veritasium, or another there's another person who did, it might have been Veritasium, about learning styles and how everybody, lots of people say, oh, I'm a visual learner, or I'm a audio listener or learner, or different types of learning styles. And it turns out most of those, well, pretty much there's no scientific evidence to say that there are any such thing as learning styles, and it's just totally bogus. People will say that they do, in fact, they don't. And they might have a preference. They enjoy watching a video more, but are they going to learn as much and really want to have a mixture of styles that you're providing training? So video as well as reading as well as some other stuff. And that was a really interesting. I mean, it was based on studies I'd seen before about learning modes or learning styles. And there's also a lack of any studies on dark mode versus light mode. There's just none about, is it easier on the eyes. There is stuff about dark mode, towards the later hours, having that dark mode turned on for the last hour that you're using your machine, in that it shows less blue light and therefore becomes easier to fall asleep. So there's studies about that specific thing, but then there's also there are some studies about how dark mode potentially causes problems the longer you use it, around haloing on, as you're, if you're all dark mode and nothing else. And it's especially a problem with people with astigmatism, like myself. And I was wondering, well, how many people have an astigmatism, astigmatism, or is it stigma? Anyway, that short-sightedness or nearsightedness. How many people have that? And in the U.S., at least some stats show, in the U.S. that accounts for about 30% of the U.S. population. So 30%, or maybe some percentage of 30%, have problems with looking at, lighter text on a darker background for extended periods of time. Problems around haloing, and that's often the problem I have. I have to squint a little bit more for longer periods of time, and especially if there's any sort of reddish. There's certain one of the color blindness things where seeing like a red on a darker screen, I just can't tell that there's anything there. And I have no problems with a lighter mode screen. So I feel like that's a super interesting topic. So I think going forward, there's probably a video in there. And I'm sure there would be amazing, a lot of comments from the dark mode crowd saying I'm flat out wrong. So that would be also awesome. Thanks for, Patagonia. Yeah, do you work for Patagonia? Ratchdeg? Rad. A couple months ago, my wife and I went into Seattle. So we live on Bainbridge Island, which is across Puget Sound from Seattle. We went into Seattle, and we do this every now and then. We get a hotel room for the night and stay there, or a couple of nights, because we have points at lots of places. So stay at a hotel and do the sights. Usually when my mother-in-law is staying with us and she can take Stella, our daughter. And so one of these times we went over, and right downtown there's a Patagonia store location. It's been there for decades and decades. It's been there for a long time. I feel like it was there when I used to live downtown Seattle before I lived in Amsterdam, all those things. When I was working at Microsoft, I was living downtown Seattle. And I feel like the Patagonia store was there. It's been there ages. And I went in and I saw this. I kind of want all my other fleeces all say AWS reInvent. I have 8 reInvent hoodies, and so I figured, well, let's get something that's not AWS. And so I found this Patagonia sweater thing, and bought a second one, and I love it, and I'm in it almost every day. So thank you. I would love to know if you actually work there. So anyway, okay. I feel like let's go back to me being. How do I get me? There we go. Well, thank you very much for being here. I think I said I was going to leave 10 minutes ago. This is the same problem I had last time. I said, okay, I got to go. My wife is calling or somebody's calling me to get off. I got to go. And it took me like 20 minutes to finally stop the stream. So I'm stopping now, really. Thank you. Bye.